Hi everyone, my name is Savannah Sellers. I'm an NBC News correspondent bringing you updates right here every day at 1 p.m. We are giving you the updates that you need to hear, but also stories that you actually want to hear. My goal is to inform you, but not overwhelm you. I say that at the top every day because I really mean it. If you tuned in yesterday, we got to get quite high tech and have my pictures play up here and everything, but today I'm on my own again because my very high tech friend who's helping me out with that has a meeting, literally. So as we all try to figure out how to work from home, that's what's going on. So today I'm back with my trusty iPad for my elements, but hopefully we'll be back with our high tech setup tomorrow. But again, every day at 1 p.m. live right here on the NBC News account, I will be giving you the updates that you need and also some stories that you want to hear. So let's get into it. I have been trying to start with good news wherever possible, and today I have some good news to begin. There was not a single new death reported in China in the last 24 hours, which is obviously huge. Also, the center where this whole outbreak began in Wuhan, China, they are getting ready to sort of resume normal operations and have their lockdown end. So that's good news because that's sort of what we have been using as a lot of the base case. And also for us in New York, we've been looking at places where it's gotten really bad, like in Wuhan, to sort of see what we could potentially expect, but not a single new death reported in China, which is of course great news. And then another little piece of good news from here in New York is more than 1,300 firefighters here from FDNY have returned to work after recovering either from a confirmed case of coronavirus or from what they suspected to be coronavirus. They have recovered and are back to work. So again, starting with good news, and there is a lot of that. Also, before we dip into some more numbers and such from coronavirus front, I just wanted to talk quickly about the other big thing that's happening today here in the United States, which of course, like everything, has been affected by the coronavirus, but the Wisconsin primary is still happening today. There are many polling places that are closed, but the ones that are open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is despite the fact that the state of Wisconsin has a stay-at-home order in place. So people are leaving the house to vote. And in fact, they are leaving the house and forming quite long lines, like this one in Milwaukee. This line spanned multiple blocks. And actually there was kind of a drama over whether it was going to happen or not. The governor had signed an executive order to postpone the primary to June, but then it actually was overruled by the state Supreme Court. So then it continued on. There was also an order to extend the absentee ballot time to both count them and vote to return them and then also count them. But that was also overruled by the Supreme Court, actually by the U.S. Supreme Court, not the state. So that's what's happening in Wisconsin and the changes and confusion based on coronavirus. Let's look globally at what's going on. You guys may have heard that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, he was hospitalized and he was actually moved into the ICU. He does say though that he's stable and good spirits. That's from Downing Street, his office. He's not on a ventilator. As of now, he does not have pneumonia. But of course, a major world leader who is in the ICU. Paris has now banned outdoor exercise. The reason that I bring that up is just because that's one of those things that even stay-at-home orders here in the United States have allowed for. You are able to still go outside and exercise. You're supposed to do so alone. But Paris has now banned that between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. to keep the streets even quieter throughout the day. Japan has issued a state of emergency. They have said that they are not necessarily doing a lockdown, and that, transportation and things like that are going to continue to be happening. But this is Tokyo today. As you can see, pretty crowded streets here. So maybe that'll change. We're not sure. But they did declare a state of emergency, which basically just gives leaders more autonomy to be able to enforce social distancing and such. But as that picture showed, in some places it does not look like that's happening. Israel is also imposing a nationwide lockdown, even right now over the Passover holiday that's coming up. All right, so now let's talk New York. I always like to update on this again because we've just heard from our governor about an hour ago, and because this state where I am, New York, is by far the hardest hit. So this is the toughest news that's going on across the country. a little bit of bad news, but then I promise good news also. We had the largest single day increase in deaths so far, and we are at a total of nearly 5,500. But the number of hospitalizations is dropping, so that we've had 3 days now actually of stability or a drop. Our officials here have been careful to warn us that they are not officially saying that we have flattened the curve or we've rounded the corner or anything like that, but this is indicating that we could be on the way to doing so. So of course that is great news. They are attributing this to social distancing in New York. The governor called it New York Pause, P-A-U-S-E. It's an acronym, and it does seem to actually be working. So number of hospitalizations dropping. This could mean that we are hitting the apex of that curve. And then hopefully we have to come back down the other side, of course, but hopefully that is what would begin. We are not sure that that's exactly where we are yet, but that is the hope and some good news there. We also have these field hospitals that are up and running. So there's one run by Samaritan's Purse in Central Park that's been accepting patients. The Javits Center that has 2,500 beds, the capability to hold that many patients, is beginning to take patients, as well as that Navy ship that's docked on the west side of Manhattan with a capacity of 500. And the other thing that's kind of cool that could be important across the country is that antibody testing has been approved by the New York State Department of Health. It now needs to get FDA approval. But what that basically could mean is that antibody testing would mean that anyone, even if you didn't think you were sick, basically using a blood test, they could tell if you have antibodies that could sort of be the antidote to coronavirus within your body. That would mean that you did actually have it and then that you recovered, even if you weren't symptomatic. So this is one of the ways that we are hopefully going to be able to return to normal, whatever that's going to look like. It's going to mean that we need to know. One of the ways that our governor in New York is saying that we could potentially do that is by testing a lot. We need to know who had it and then who is hopefully immune to it. And then that, coupled with the potential of a vaccine in the future, is how we sort of reach herd immunity, which is how communities and countries get over certain things or get to have the ability to get over it so that we can survive if, we can get through it more quickly if another strain of this were to come, or if we have another sort of relapse of it in the fall, as many experts have been saying. So those antibodies would be really important, and it has now been approved by New York State Department of Health. Again, I like telling you things about New York because that could happen across the country. We are, of course, looking for what we can do as quickly as possible because it is pretty bad here. But we still need FDA approval to do that. But that is another way of sort of hopefully being able to get back to normal. Every day I like to tell you some information that you might need, and this was actually something we were getting a ton of questions about after I went live yesterday, so I thought it would be a good one to attack today, and that is what is going on with pets and animals. Another thing I want to add right now is feel free to start sending in any questions that you have, because I'll leave some time for that. Sorry, you can hear a siren from in my apartment. But you can start sending in questions if you want, and I'll get to some of those as soon as I can. But one of the ones that was a big one yesterday, so I figured we can continue talking about it today, pets and animals. So yesterday here we talked about this tiger at the Bronx Zoo that is confirmed to have coronavirus. They believe that was given, the tiger got COVID-19 because of someone who was taking care of the animals who was shedding the virus, who they actually believe was asymptomatic, so they didn't know that they had it. And it is believed that several other big cats at the Bronx Zoo also have it based on their symptoms. They're basically showing symptoms of a respiratory illness, so it's like a cough from one of these big cats. So that leaves a lot of questions about what does that mean for animals. So according to the experts, and of course, I will be the first to admit that there's a lot that we don't know about a lot of this. So some of this might sound a little bit confusing, but according to most experts and the American Veterinary Medical Association, it's not going from animals to humans. There have been no indication that that is the case so far, and there are also no pets in the United States that have even been confirmed to have it. So no pets in the United States have it. There have been cases of some animals, 2 dogs and a cat overseas, and some of that was actually through a study where like the cats, for example, were like forcibly given the virus. It didn't just happen. And 2 dogs overseas who did test positive when their owners also tested positive. But that has not happened in the United States. That's obviously not very many cases when you think of the scope of how many cases there are. And it's not believed, again, that it could pass the other way from an animal, from your pet to you. And also, even when they are testing positive, they haven't been showing real signs of sickness. So it's not it's likely that you won't actually see your animal, being sick, even if they were to be tested positive for it. And those positives in the animals that I discussed were what's called a weak positive. So basically there was not that much of the virus in it. In the animals. One other thing I thought was kind of interesting, and some people may have ferrets. Ferrets may be susceptible. So the American Veterinary Medical Association is a good resource if you are concerned about any of that, or your pets. If you are sick, out of an abundance of caution, they're saying that it might be a good idea to have someone else take care of your pets, just like it would be your children or anything like that if you are showing signs of it. But again, the idea is that you are not going to be getting it from your animal. Okay, now I'm going to show you something to make you smile, and then I will take some questions. I just thought that this was so neat. This is a video from a hospital. Of course, I've been showing you guys on here and talking a lot about the fact that we've been cheering for healthcare workers here in New York. I know it's happening in a lot of places around the world. But every night at 7 p.m. in New York, we cheer for healthcare workers. Yesterday, I shared a video of the fire department showing up at hospitals in New York and blaring their sirens and giving standing ovations to healthcare workers at these hospitals. Well, here is a success story from a hospital. So this New York mom had been being treated for 15 days at a hospital, and then the healthcare workers at the hospital all cheered for her on her way out. She's a mom of 5. She's reunited with her husband here. And you could see all these healthcare workers lining up for her, which I just thought was very, very neat. And she's crying, and she gets to see her husband at the end of the video. I'll link to that video also on my Instagram, as I have with a lot of these different types of videos that I show, so that you guys can find them. I'm at Watch Savannah if you want to find me. I'll link different things that I talk about in here if you want to get any more information. So I am going to ask for some questions now. I see a lot of people who are saying that they like the good news, which I really appreciate. I like it too, and I think it's nice to start with good news. I feel like it's a little bit of hope for all of us, right? Okay, let's look through here for some questions. And I actually have somebody helping me out today pulling questions that you guys are asking. Somebody asked, is coronavirus more like the flu? I assume what you mean by that question is symptom-wise. So when coronavirus was first being reported about, it was being said to be kind of like a flu-like illness, but with maybe some more respiratory symptoms than you might be used to with the flu. But yes and no is what I would say. There are certain symptoms that are coming out that are being more and more frequently shared through research as frequent symptoms, like the loss of being able to smell or taste anything. Of course, when you're stuffy and that type of thing with any type of sickness, that comes on, but it's more specific to the coronavirus that patients have had that. And then the big thing is the respiratory illness. That's why you've been hearing a lot from me here, or anytime you're consuming news probably, about the need for ventilators in hospitals. The ventilators, you intubate someone and put them on a ventilator, which then basically means that a machine breathes for the patient. And that's because the respiratory illness is really what's tough for people here. People who are ending up in the ICU are mostly doing so because they need help breathing. And that's because basically a lot of this COVID-19 has been resulting in essentially a pneumonia for people who are really hard hit by it. So that's the big thing with this one. Another question that I have here that is a tough question deals with domestic violence. So something that has been going on, which is just, of course, awful, is there has been an increase in the number of calls to different hotlines for survivors of domestic violence, people who are dealing with it when they are at home and they're stuck at home. So one thing that I do want to share here, and I will also certainly link that over on my profile at Watch Savannah, is that several states, including New York, are boosting what they're able to do so that they can help out people who are victims of domestic violence right now. Hotlines are staffed, all those types of things are still happening. Those are not services that are on pause or on hold or that don't have employees working for them throughout this time. So I'll link that on mine, but that is a good question, and it's a question that I'm assuming is founded on the fact that we are hearing a little bit more about that right now in the news, which is, of course, so unsettling. But I will link that because it is being thought of, and you are absolutely not alone. Somebody asked, so viruses now change once they enter the animal. It is true that, in general, sicknesses affect humans and animals very differently. And so, yes, is sort of the answer to that. This is looking different. For example, all of those big cats at the Bronx Zoo are expected to be okay. And actually, one of the tigers that's sick is expecting cubs, which is a big deal for the tiger population at this zoo. And they are expected to be okay. They think that that they will be able to recover, and all of those animals that I discussed that had it before, none of them, they were concerned about the animals passing away. They did seem that it would be okay for them to get over it. So it's just reacting differently. The biggest thing that you'll see in an animal, if you do just like with these tigers, is the respiratory symptoms. And that's essentially why they even thought to test tigers at the Bronx Zoo, was because they were noticing that the animals just sort of sounded sick in that way. So yes, it certainly is different. And again, I do want to stress that experts say right now anyway, and I know that a lot of this is frustrating that it's kind of like right now and it could change, but that it's not passing from your pet to you. There is a teeny tiny bit of examples, anecdotal examples, not even real evidence, I wouldn't use that word, that animals can catch it, your pets can catch it, but again, they don't catch it like we do. They don't get extremely ill like we do. I think I'm seeing so many, somebody says, so from humans to animals is potentially what we're seeing. I'm seeing so many comments about liking the good news. So thank you so much for liking that. I will remember that, and I will keep this up. Let's see if there's any other questions from here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Somebody asked, should I be washing my hair and changing clothes? That's, something that good hygiene is certainly something that can help here. Washing your hands, of course, is the biggest one. We've all been talking quite a bit about that for 20 seconds with warm water in between your fingers. Don't forget your thumbs, all that kind of stuff. But yes, we have been reporting at NBC News on the Today Show and stuff, there are certain things that are sort of your outside clothes that can stay either outside if you are in a position where you can leave things outside or outside your front door, or near the front or near the entrance area to your home, or in my case, apartment. So when I've been wearing a coat or jacket outside, I have sort of dedicated one jacket to doing so, and that's the only one that goes outside with me. Same with, of course, taking shoes off at the front. But a lot of that is kind of stuff that we're used to. But yes, I would say that things that are going outside, something that you're wearing to the grocery store, is probably not something then that you want to sit on your couch or be on your bed in or anything like that. So that's the little bit of information that we have, because we do know that the virus can survive, though we're not exactly sure how long, on things like fabric. Anyway, well, thank you so much for the great questions. Thank you guys for hanging out. 1 p.m. live Eastern time every day here on the NBC News account. I'll be here giving you guys updates and also trying to bring you some good news. I'm so happy. I really am grateful to hear that you guys like to see that. So thank you again. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow might be back to my high-tech ways if you've been watching the little saga of my iPad or the cool new thing we're doing. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, be well, and I can't wait to chat again. Send me any questions at @WatchSavannah. If there's any good news, maybe something that's happening in your community that you'd like me to share on here, send it over to me. That's where I'm getting quite a few of my ideas, actually. All right, thanks guys. See you tomorrow. Have a good one.